Welcome guys back to another video. This is a follow-up of that seized engine which came from Scotland. We made new discoveries today, literally new discoveries like we weren't aware. So let me switch the camera and show you them as well and explain a little bit what we missed in the first place. So in the morning we had a chat with Dan and he told me like, did I see the comments underneath the video where the owner commented like he only drove the car with the low oil pressure like 300-400 yards from the garage to his house, which like the credit is due to Dan. He said like it is very little distance that it seizes the engine this bad, so it doesn't turn around or turn over. So he told like we should remove the sump without like doing any big jobs on the car, like such replacing and rebuilding engine and stuff like that. So now I removed the oil pan and have a look what we found. The chain is loose on the oil pump, and also there was like an oil leak. I believe that's from the crank seal, but we will check that later. So now what's going to happen, obviously the engine doesn't need to be removed, so we need to assess the damage if it has done any. So what we're going to do, obviously remove the pump, check the bearings, replace the timing chain for the owner, remove the valve cover because that's needed, check the camshaft, replace if that is worn, carbon cleaning, and very likely the engine can go back to together and that will be it. However, in the meanwhile, that is that engine we disassembled, so we've sent the crankshaft to be reground. The machine shop guy said it can be done, obviously with different set and size of bearings. So we are going to rebuild this engine and it will go to our car, which we'll talk about it later. And also we have another engine there which I started rebuilding yesterday. Then belittled my job or work. He said I was too slow yesterday, so it is at this stage at the moment. The bearings are replaced. He's going to fit the new pump to it. We are waiting for a tensioner for the timing chain because I believe that is a 2018 engine and the timing setup is a little bit different. So usually on the bottom side you have a tensioner and an idler or a guide, and on this one, in this case, you have two tensioners. So it's a revised version of it. We're going to fully rebuild that and fit into another car because we have quite a few which they need. So yeah, the owner is like somewhat lucky with this, and just to get it right, we didn't say it was his fault or something. The purpose of the whole video was that why you shouldn't drive with low oil pressure, because really seriously we get that asked extremely often if it will do any damage to the engine. Of course it will. This wasn't the case. I mean, he had the low oil pressure, but the reason the engine stopped or it's not turning, as I said, is the timing chain failure. It has, I believe, around 100k on the clock. So we're going to further investigate it in next clips. And also we are waiting one to be delivered, one another Mazda, I believe it's a CX-5, when an owner attempted to replace the camshaft on his own, but he hasn't done it with quite a lot of luck, and very likely that made a big mess inside the cylinder head, like in the engine. So stay tuned if you want to see that one as well. Very likely we'll do that in here once the recovery guy arrives with the car. Dan corrected me again that I shouldn't have said that everything is fine, because obviously first we need to check the bearings and the crankshaft if it didn't suffer any damage. So Dan is doing it right now. He's removing the oil pump, as you can see the oil feed line, and we're going to check the journals, like remove the journals on the conrods and check the conrod, the bearing, and check the crankshaft as well. So I have removed the valve cover. Let's have a look at it. It is extremely dirty. It doesn't look it had frequent oil changes. I'm not sure if you will be able to see, but the camshaft is worn. We then removed the oil pump and the crank. The engine still doesn't turn, so he is now checking if he can see anything in the cylinders. Then we are going to further disassemble the timing side of the things, and we want to see, or we may just remove the camshafts, and then the valves should be in closed position, and we want to see if we can turn the crank or the crankshaft. If we still can't, it may be a chance that something is jammed with the timing chain, and hence, or that's why we cannot turn it. But without further disassembling, we can't confirm at the moment the damage of the engine. So I'm not saying it is good, it is better than what we thought. So it's not very, we still need to remove the journals because we didn't see them, but we cannot turn the engine, so we bring down the con rods where we can access the bolts easily for them. So that's why we want to turn at least, so we can investigate the bearings. But without that, we still can't say how bad it is. It still may need that engine replacement, rebuilding. Obviously you will know, guys, or you will see the decision or our recommendation, and then the owner's decision how we will want us to go ahead and do the job. So guys, it is 10 p.m. I'm editing this video right now, and I noticed I made a lot of mistakes when I was speaking or talking. The reason is because I'm tired, Danny's tired, we are both tired. We sometimes don't say the words properly, unfortunately. So basically what we wanted to say after that, the last clip what you've seen, we didn't want to waste any more time on that engine. So we couldn't turn basically the crankshaft, even though we removed the bottom timing chain. So that was off, that was snapped in half, we removed it, that was easy. Then we removed the camshafts, we removed the sprocket of the camshaft, and the timing chain just fallen into, still couldn't turn the engine, couldn't turn the crank. We couldn't remove the journals because they were stopped in a middle of the piston. As you can see, I'm still dirty, didn't have a shower. So they were stopped again, I made a mistake. They were stopped in the middle of the cylinder. So basically we didn't have access to the second bolt of the journal. We couldn't remove that, we couldn't turn it. Then what we done, we tried to remove the cradle, just to loosen the bolts of the cradle. We loosened them, couldn't turn the crankshaft, and then I said, okay, it is seized, let's not waste any more time on it. We're going to rebuild another engine, and we're going to straight swap it into this car. So basically what we think happened, the owner said and confirmed that he had the low oil pressure, and unfortunately at the same time, very likely the timing chain has snapped on the bottom of the engine, so between the oil pump and the crankshaft, meaning there was no oil pressure. The car somehow still started. Very likely he drove it with low oil pressure. We don't know what damage it done to the crank at this point. I'm not saying we don't care, not that we don't care, it doesn't really matter. We're going to rebuild the engine anyways, and then we're going to assess that later. And I wanted to do 2 separate videos, but now I'm going to include another video or clips after this one. What happened to another customer who tried to do the camshaft replacement on its own. I must say he done very thorough job. It looked very clean. He done one mistake, and I can't fault him. It happened to us before. It happened to me personally before, which I will do another video about it. Not exactly the same thing, but he didn't tighten one bolt, which was very crucial, and it made a lot of big mess inside the engine, and he needs an engine rebuild. So have a look why. Welcome guys back to the channel. Behind me you can see a Mazda CX-5. Unfortunately it didn't come on his own legs. I'll turn and switch the camera and tell you why. So the owner done the camshaft replacement job, and I must say he done a thorough job. Like, he done the cleaning very well. He used new parts. However, he done or did one very crucial mistake. What was it? He didn't tighten the sprocket all the way, and the bolt came loose and it made damage to the engine, which I will ask them to give me an assistance and show you what kind of damage the owner made and what it will need to get it done, get it fixed, get it corrected. So yeah, let me ask Dan with the camera and we will show you the damage. So Dan is sticking down the camera there, and the reason why, because as the sprocket became loose and detached from the camshaft, it was still spinning, and unfortunately the piston made contact with the valves. So let's have a look at that. Hopefully you can see it. So that is the mark from the valve on the piston, and then it's going to turn the camera because it is an articulating camera, so he can turn the end of it to point to the piston and have a look what you can see. Sorry, to turn and have a look at the valve to see what we can deduct from it. Yeah, there are the valves, and if he can go closer you will see what, yeah, there it is. You see that crack? So basically at this point the cylinder head needs to come off. Obviously engine out job.
The cylinder head is cracked as well.
And yeah, then just confirmed and said the cylinder head is cracked. So it's not only like it doesn't even need to be pressure tested because it will leak air or leak the pressure. At this point, unfortunately, it needs a new or a second-hand cylinder head. We don't know how many pistons are damaged, very likely the conrods as well. Unfortunately, this DIY turned into a nightmare for the owner. The car is like in very good condition. It looks so nice. It has a lot of optional extras and features. It's quite a shame that it happened. Obviously, I still need to call the owner, let him know our assessment, what we found, and then get an answer from him, like what he wants us to do. Obviously, there are options. He's got options like what to do, such as a second-hand engine, rebuilt engine by us, rebuilt engine by someone else. I'll try to include it here in the end of the video, like what his decision was, how we are going to proceed.